When people hear the word Vatican, their minds often jump to the Pope, the mighty dome of St. Peter's Basilica, or perhaps the colorful Swiss guards standing ceremonially at their posts. But few people know that behind the grand public face of the Catholic Church lies an intricate, almost invisible web of power, one that functions like clockwork, even in the most turbulent moments of transition or crisis. We often talk about the Pope, the cardinals, or the bishops. But what if I told you that there are powerful figures in the Vatican whose names you've probably never heard? People who step in when the Pope dies, who handle the darkest confessions imaginable, or who preserve centuries of secrets hidden in underground vaults. This is not fiction. These roles are real, critical to the life of the Church, and yet largely unknown. Today, we're going to uncover the first two of the top 5 most secretive and least known roles in the Vatican, starting with a man who, for a brief period, becomes the most powerful figure in the entire Catholic world when the Pope dies. Number 5, the Camerlengo, the man who runs the Vatican when the Pope dies. When the Pope dies, most of the world pauses in reverence. Images of mourning crowds fill the news, and a sense of solemnity settles over the Catholic Church. But within the Vatican walls, someone must act immediately. Someone must declare the death, secure the papal chambers, manage the global institution, and prepare for what comes next. That man is the Camerlengo. Though few outside the Church even know his name, the Camerlengo temporarily becomes the most powerful man in the Vatican the moment the papacy ends. His first task is deeply symbolic. He approaches the deceased pope, gently calls his baptismal name 3 times. When no answer comes, he announces the pope's death to the Church. He then breaks the pope's fisherman's ring, the papal seal used to authorize documents, with a silver hammer. This act isn't ceremonial, it's a signal to the world that the pope's authority has ended. He then seals the papal apartments, preventing any access until a new pope is elected. But beyond ritual, the Camerlengo assumes real administrative control. He oversees the Vatican's day-to-day functions during the interregnum, sede vacante, ensures financial and diplomatic stability, and prepares the papal conclave. No new church policy can be made, but the Church must still run, and it's the Camerlengo who holds the reins. His influence is temporary, yes, but essential. Without him, the Church's transition could descend into chaos, and yet his identity often remains in the shadows. Few Catholics know his name. He doesn't give speeches or wield spiritual authority, but in the critical days between popes, it is his steady hand that guides the Vatican through one of its most fragile moments. Number 4, the Major Penitentiary, the one who forgives what others cannot. While the Camerlengo manages the Church in times of papal vacancy, there is another figure who works in the deepest shadows. A man whose duty is neither political nor financial, but spiritual at the highest level. He is the Major Penitentiary, the head of one of the most secretive offices in the Vatican, the Apostolic Penitentiary. This role may sound abstract, but its mission is crystal clear: to deal with sins so severe, so grave, that ordinary priests and even bishops are not allowed to absolve them. These include sacrilegious acts like desecrating the Eucharist, attempting to assassinate the Pope, or violating the seal of confession, crimes that require extraordinary mercy, but only through extraordinary authority. In these cases, forgiveness cannot be granted at the parish level. Instead, they are referred, often anonymously, to the Major Penitentiary. His office handles them with absolute secrecy. The names of those involved are never revealed. Petitions are coded. The files are sealed forever. Even more surprising, the Major Penitentiary is one of the only Vatican officials who keeps his position during a papal vacancy. While others step aside, his role continues without pause, because the Church believes God's mercy cannot be delayed, even when the throne of Peter is empty. This man rarely appears in public. He does not command headlines. He does not announce his work. But he is entrusted with perhaps the Church's greatest spiritual burden, the task of judging and absolving the gravest moral transgressions committed by humanity. He is not a pope. He is not a cardinal who governs nations. But when souls cry out in darkness, he listens. And through his quiet, hidden role, he offers a path back to grace. Number 3, the prefect of the papal household, the Pope's hidden gatekeeper. If the Pope is the most visible man in the Vatican, then the prefect of the papal household is the man who controls what and who the Pope sees. You'll never hear his name in most news reports. He doesn't preach homilies and he never appears on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica. Yet behind every handshake, every private audience, and every diplomatic meeting, he is there, quietly orchestrating the Pope's daily life. From dawn to nightfall, this man manages the Pope's schedule with military precision. He decides which heads of state are granted time, which cardinals are prioritized, and even which guests are allowed into the apostolic palace. The job requires diplomacy, discretion, and often the ability to say no, even to powerful people. But the role is more than administrative. The prefect is also a protector of the Pope's energy and focus. He ensures that the pontiff is not overwhelmed by endless demands. In a way, he is the Pope's first line of defense, shielding him from exhaustion, intrusion, and sometimes political manipulation. To the public, the Pope appears serene and accessible, but behind that calm is a man like the prefect, orchestrating a schedule so complex that even a single disruption could cause a domino effect across Vatican diplomacy. His power lies in silence, and in choosing what or who gets past the doors. Number 2, the archivist of the Vatican Secret Archives. Keeper of centuries of secrets beneath the Vatican lies a fortress of knowledge. Ancient manuscripts, letters from emperors, papal bulls, handwritten correspondence with kings and queens, philosophers and saints. It's not a legend, it's real. And it's called the Vatican Apostolic Archive, formerly known as the Vatican Secret Archive. At the heart of this immense treasure trove stands a man with a key, both literal and symbolic, the archivist of the Vatican Secret Archives. His role? To safeguard more than 12 centuries of global history. From the excommunication letter of Martin Luther to Galileo's trial transcripts, the archivist manages access to some of the most sensitive and powerful documents in religious and world and history. But this is not a museum. The archive is closed to the public. Only approved scholars may request access, and even then, only under strict conditions. Many files are sealed for decades, sometimes centuries. Some believe there are documents that could reshape public understanding of major historical events. What makes the archivist's job so critical and controversial is this balance between transparency and secrecy. He must decide what stays hidden and what can be revealed. In doing so, he becomes a silent player in the relationship between church and history. This role isn't about faith alone. It's about power, memory, and the weight of truth. And within the walls of the Vatican, the archivist is the silent guardian of the church's deepest stories, both divine and dangerous. Number 1, the Swiss Guard Commander, general of the world's oldest standing army. With their Renaissance-style uniforms and colorful plumed helmets, the Swiss Guards might look like actors in a historical play. But make no mistake, these men are highly trained soldiers, and at their head stands a figure with both military authority and sacred responsibility, the commander of the Pontifical Swiss Guard. This role has existed since 1506. Over 500 years later, the Swiss Guard remains the smallest but oldest standing army in the world, dedicated solely to protecting the Pope. And the commander? He's no ceremonial figure. Every detail of Vatican security, from papal trips to diplomatic visits to crowd control in St. Peter's Square, runs through his office. He oversees not only the ceremonial honor guards, but also the armed protection squads in plain clothes. In times of danger, it is his strategy that could save the Pope's life. To become commander, one must be Swiss, Catholic, and a former officer in the Swiss military. But even more than experience, the role requires absolute loyalty. He answers not to a state, but to a spiritual leader. Perhaps the most telling fact? The oath taken by each guard includes this phrase, "I swear to serve faithfully, loyally, and honorably the Supreme Pontiff, even to the shedding of my blood." And if that moment ever comes, if threat or crisis arises, the commander must lead that defense, quietly and without hesitation. To the public, he may just be the man behind the marching soldiers, but to those within the Vatican, he is the protector of the Holy Father's life, commanding not just loyalty, but history. So, the next time you think of the Vatican as just robes, rituals, and cardinals, remember this. Behind the marble columns and gilded halls is a web of hidden roles, powerful, mysterious, and essential. From the man who governs during the Pope's absence, to the one who forgives sins beyond forgiveness, to the silent gatekeeper, the archivist of forbidden truths, and the commander of a 500-year-old army. These are not just jobs. They are sacred duties that carry the weight of centuries. They are the unseen hands holding together the oldest institution on earth. And now you know their names.